from WCIA 3 Plus. With Taylor Mitchell. This is Chat with the Chief.
As a daughter of a law enforcement officer, I know how important it is to get to know our community leaders. We actually talked with my dad, Art Mitchell, Chicago Police Sergeant, last week. And now this week, I'm so excited to welcome Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers. Thank you so much for coming all the way to Champaign to hang out with us.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Taylor.
Yes,
it's a pleasure.
It's been a fun morning getting to know you already. But for those who might not know much about you, kind of explain your background in law enforcement, where you grew up, and just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so Ben Lowers, I am from Clinton, Illinois, born and raised in Clinton and DeWitt County. Came up through the school system there. Come from a family background in agriculture and livestock. Most of my extended family is still in the agriculture field. My parents are not originally from Clinton. They're more from the western side of the state, but had moved there prior to me being born, so that's home to me. Again, came up through the school system. I was kind of going in that family direction of agriculture. That's what my degree's in, from Lakeland College. Attended college there at Lakeland. And through circumstances, I ended up over where my parents were originally from, in the Easton Mason County area, west central Illinois. And it was over there that I actually began my law enforcement career with the Mason County Sheriff's Office in Havana, Illinois. Started out as a 911 telecommunicator dispatcher and county jail correctional officer, which, quite frankly, those 3 years in that system proved to be invaluable when I then went to the road, as we say, and became a sworn law enforcement officer. I started in 1999 with the Havana Police Department and came over here to the University of Illinois Police Training Institute for my training, the first class of the new millennium in 2000, and returned to the Havana Police Department for a couple years as a patrol officer, where I also simultaneously served as a part-time deputy with the Mason County Sheriff's Office, who I had previously served as a 911 operator and corrections officer. So tremendous experience over there. Really enjoyed, from a young man who had very little police interaction. I say I came from the Cleaver household. I'm very blessed to have two parents and an intact family with two older siblings. We had very little police interaction, so that experience in the jail was just phenomenal. And as I look back over an almost 30-year career, was maybe a couple of my favorite years to kind of learn more about the criminal element. And in a controlled environment where it's a controlled environment, they're sober, things of that nature that oftentimes have an influence on people's behavior and certainly criminal activities. So, to learn that aspect of it and interact with those people proved very valuable then when I went to the road as a law enforcement officer and we're dealing with them, out in society. In 2001, I had the opportunity to come home, shall we say, and took the opportunity to transfer to the Clinton Police Department. Then under Chief Mike Reedy, a great man and a great mentor to me throughout my career. So came back to Clinton in 2001, obviously started, at the beginning ranks as a patrol officer, became a certified bicycle officer and spent the first couple summers focused on our downtown square, where at the time we were having some issues with some large gatherings and just kids being kids, but was kind of a local hot topic at the time. And so spent the first couple years on patrol. In 2003, was fortunate to be promoted to sergeant, which made me then a supervisor of a patrol shift. I also served as the administrative sergeant, where I oversaw the department's payroll, scheduling, some training aspects, things of that nature. Throughout my time as a sergeant, I served as a neighborhood watch liaison. Became a firearms instructor, a master firearms instructor through the state of Illinois, and really focused on training and professional development. Investigations has always kind of been one of my favorite aspects of it, and the art of interview and interrogation, the gift of gab, shall we say. So that was a good part of my career as a sergeant. In 2012, was promoted to deputy chief. And that was kind of in the upcoming, positioning for the retirement of Chief Reedy in 2013. And then I was fortunate to be appointed Chief of Police in the winter of 2013, and been there since. So it's been a great ride. It's been a great career. Challenging at times, no doubt. Certainly a transition between policing in the late 90s and policing in 2025. But we've adapted to the changes and continue to do so. And it has been a very rewarding career as well. To back up, I talked about, kind of coming from an agriculture and livestock background.
Right.
A hobby, my family, not only myself growing up in 4-H and whatnot, but my own family. A little known fact about us, we're very involved in the exhibition of show cattle,
Cool.
raising and showing cattle nationwide. And so that's been a passion. So we still kind of hold on to those family roots of
Aw.
agriculture and livestock. But I grew up, I had a gentleman that was very monumental and instrumental in my law enforcement career as a neighborhood, again, in a small town, very close family friends of ours. I was a special agent with the state police. And I was always fascinated by his work. Both of his sons that are my age have grown up to become police officers. One is a sergeant with the Macon County Sheriff's Office, and another a lieutenant with the Illinois State Police Investigations Unit. And so, like an extension of our own family, was very instrumental in my law enforcement career and wanting to go in that direction. So. That's about me up until now, I guess.
And that was kind of my question to you, because I know a lot of law enforcement officers, they grow up maybe in a household with a police officer, and you didn't.
Absolutely.
And so what
No.
kind of piqued your interest?
I didn't, but I would say that it really started out with the interest and admiration of this gentleman and who he was to me.
Yeah.
Our families were very close. Again, I would describe him as an extension of our own family. And having 2 older sisters and no brothers, the sons were like the closest thing I had to brothers.
Right.
And so was very close with that family and still am today. Unfortunately, we've lost him, but still very close with that family today. Again, kind of an extension of our family, but so I'm kind of balancing the agriculture livestock background with my hobbies, with our own family, but have pursued that great interest and passion for law enforcement. And so I did have not some immediate family, but I had a cousin involved in law enforcement, was a chief deputy of a sheriff's department for many, many years. And actually my great grandfather served as sheriff from, I believe,
wow.
1906 to 1910 over in Mason County, Illinois. Again, where I started my law enforcement career, that is where my parents were originally from, and our extended family was from. So there is a little bit of family background in law enforcement, but it goes back quite a ways. That wasn't really so much as a direct impact on me myself.
Were your parents supportive of you
Very.
going into law enforcement?
They were. Yes, they were very supportive of it. I was one of those kids. I don't know what the statistic is, but they talk about the statistics of kids, college age kids, young adults changing directions in their career, and I fell into that. I was certainly one of those. I was set out to. I was kind of focusing on agriculture and education, and that's where I thought I was going to go when I graduated high school. But when I made that transition, I've never looked back, and I'm so glad that I did.
And that was, before we head to break, I want to ask, I always ask this, and you kind of just answered it, but if you were not in law enforcement, what other job do you think you would have? Would it be in agriculture or
I
showing
think
cattle
so.
or something?
I think so. I have a passion for agriculture and the livestock, specifically the raising of cattle and promotion and marketing of cattle, show cattle. But probably something in that area. But I'm glad that it's worked out the way that it has. It's a great hobby. I don't know that I'd want to do it as a career per se, but it's a hobby that we're very passionate about, but does not quite match my passion for law enforcement and serving the community. Nearly every young police officer getting into the profession, why do you want to be a police officer? To help people, and that certainly holds true to me 30 years later. I go back, and while we have our challenging moments, no doubt. You know, I don't know that there's a way to put a value on the reward and the feeling of being able to help someone who's maybe not in a position to help themselves. And so, very passionate about that. And, you know, I say that oftentimes, not oftentimes, but occasionally, you're presented an opportunity right before your face to change someone's life for the better in just that single encounter, and what you may be able to change the direction of how things are going for them in a positive manner. And that's pretty invaluable.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
We're going to head to break, and when we come back, we're going to learn more about what the Clinton Police Department is doing in the community. Welcome back to another Chat with the Chief episode. I'm your host, Taylor Mitchell, joined by Chief Lowers from the Clinton Police Department. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hang out with us.
It's been a pleasure.
Good.
Thank you.
So I want to talk about some of the things you're passionate about and what you're working on at the police department right now.
Yeah, you know, ultimately, to encompass the entire topic is just community engagement. You know, I like to be involved with the community. We talked in the first segment there, you know, the community policing aspect. And I know that over here in the Champaign area was kind of on the leading edge, the forefront of community policing back in the 90s. And something that I think is even more prevalent in a small community. You know, again, I mentioned earlier, there's a great big ocean out there. We kind of preach to our staff that we're responsible for this very small puddle and the impact that we can make in that small puddle. And so community engagement, we like to be out there, we like to be interactive, we like to humanize the badge, and we do that in a few different directions by providing different programs in regards to safety, whether it be, you know, civilian groups, businesses. We provide security training for our banks and some of our religious institutions and things like that, but also a tremendous focus in the schools. You know, as we were talking during a break earlier, you know, there's there's no question that law enforcement has you know, probably a little strong to say taken a beating, but quite frankly, down to the core of it, it has over the last 5 to 10 years. Some different things that have happened throughout our nation, and some publicity that has brought on, you know, maybe a negative outlook to law enforcement. And so trying to bridge that gap, you know, we started with our schools and starting with our younger generation. That is the future of our community. It's the future of our nation, but certainly the future of our community. And so while the DARE program has been active in our community, in our school district since the early 1990s, we continue to foster that and enhance that from year to year. I myself am a DARE officer, have been instructing DARE since 2015. And, you know, as we were talking earlier, not only do we believe in the program that was revamped in 2015, you know, I know that the DARE program at different times has received some criticism. Is it effective? Is it not? You know, that DARE program was revamped in 2015. And so we're presenting a kind of a new DARE program. It's not only just the old adage of say no to drugs and focusing solely on drugs. We cover a wide variety of topics. You know, first and foremost, the bullying and how that relates to our digital world with online social media and all the technology that our kids have access to today, but making good decisions, confident communication, making good decisions, things of that nature. And in addition to just presenting the DARE program, it provides a positive interaction between our local law enforcement and those 10, 11, 12-year-old students, you know. And then we enhance that moving on into the junior high age. We present an awareness program starting in the 7th grade that's kind of about situational awareness, reducing the likelihood or the opportunity of placing yourself in a position to become a victim. That continues on through the high school. Through high school, we spend ample time with our driver's ed classes, interacting law enforcement to new young drivers and things of that nature. So a tremendous focus on our schools, but ultimately falling under that umbrella of community engagement. And then, you know, the adaptation since the implementation of the Safety Act and the no cash bail, you know, that has certainly been a transition and a change to how we do law enforcement today and how we engage with our community. I'll be the first to tell you that I'm not a huge proponent of the no cash bail. I certainly understand the spirit of it, and the attention to, inequality and in terms of, financial inequality and whatnot. I understand the spirit of that. I'm not saying that cash bail is the answer, but I'm not sure that the reduction in incarceration is the answer either. And I say that from a standpoint, not looking at incarceration as a punishment, but rather a means to protect the law-abiding society from those individuals engaged in wrongful behavior and criminal behavior. So, I see it. I see the impact that it's had in our community. We look at in a small county of 15, 16,000 residents, we used to run a jail census, I think, between 50 to 65, 70. And now that runs between 4 and 10. That's not because of a reduction in criminal behavior or criminal activity, but rather a reduction in incarceration. And so that is putting that many more people out on the street that we're dealing with on a regular basis, and that our business owners and our citizens are having to encounter and deal with on a regular basis as well. I think an unintended impact that I have seen that has been tremendous in our small community, and I think throughout other larger communities, is the impact that it's had on substance abuse and addiction, because there's no interruption and such. I think that's an unintended consequence of that, of the no cash bail and of the minimalization of incarceration. No disruption to the addiction process. And I'm not saying by any means that jail is where those people need to be, but rather, they oftentimes run hand in hand. Criminal activity and mental health, substance abuse, those types of things, there's oftentimes coexisting conditions there. And so when we have an individual who's suffering or struggling with addiction and substance abuse, and engaged in criminal behavior, we encounter them. Maybe they're subject to arrest. We arrest them. They're simply processed and turned right back out onto the street in our society. There was no disruption to that addiction process. And so, even when they're incarcerated, maybe short term, whether it be 30 days, 60 days, I'm not saying that is going to cure their addiction disease or their struggle with substance abuse, but it is in fact going to provide a moment of clarity where maybe they can make that sound decision to maybe look at accepting the resources and things that we can offer. And so, again, while I'm not a huge proponent of the no cash bail, it is what it is. It is the system that we're working under. And so I think that we have to take a different look and a different approach to law enforcement and look at the foundation. What can we be doing at the foundation level, at the ground level, to reduce the likelihood of these people entering our justice system? And I think, this trend and focus on deflection has been tremendous. We have been extremely proactive. I'm very passionate about it, working with community stakeholders, working with those resources, and focusing on getting early intervention when we have those encounters between law enforcement and those struggling, whether it be mental health situations or substance abuse, things of that nature. Engaging with those people and trying to get them connected with resources. One of the most disheartening things is that it's very difficult to help someone who's not ready and willing to help themselves. But it won't mean that we'll ever stop trying. And so, reaching out to those people, we've got a great system in place. With the whole task, Treatment Alternative for Safe Communities. Our faction of that is DART. It's the Deflection Avenues Reconnection Team that covers a 6-county area. And when our officers encounter someone that we think is a good candidate for referral, we can refer them to a deflection specialist who will reach out to them, who have the time, the energy, and the resources available to offer those things to those folks that are struggling. And so I think it's a great partnership between our local law enforcement and DART and those deflection specialists. We've seen a we've seen a very positive response to that. We've seen some great some great success stories come out of it as well, and so that's extremely encouraging as we move forward with a new outlook on law enforcement and how we police in our smaller communities.
Yeah, and that's something that I really appreciate about you. I love that you're passionate about engaging with the community because, like you said, and like we've talked about, and especially coming from someone who has grown up in a law enforcement household, things have changed,
Absolutely.
and so it's so important, like you said, to get into those schools and to have positive interactions with your local law enforcement. Why are you so passionate about that?
Well, a couple things. I will tell you that it doesn't come from my own personal experience. I
Right.
grew up in a wonderful home. I can't say enough good about it in our family structure, but not everyone is so fortunate. And so, it's connecting with those kids when we talk about the DARE program and our interaction in the schools. It's connecting with those kids at a young age. Some of them, even by the age of 10, have already had negative encounters with law enforcement. So and it's very seldom, nearly all of us have been touched one way or another, either personally or through a family or friend when it comes to mental health and substance abuse. And so very passionate about helping those people that have maybe simply just lost their way, trying to guide them to a better path to a healthier future.
Very cool. Well, it has been so good to get to know you, and we're going to take one more break. When we come back, there's an upcoming event in Clinton you're invited to, what the police department wants to remind you about this coming weekend. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Wrapping things up, we have an upcoming festival in Clinton you would like to tell us a little bit more about.
Yeah, it's our 57th annual Apple and Pork Festival in Clinton. The Apple and Pork Festival originally and still to this day is the annual fundraiser for our DeWitt County Museum and our C.H. Moore Homestead there in Clinton. But over the course of 57 years, it has grown to such a large event that it kind of encompasses the entire town. We have the actual festival grounds, which is at the C.H. Moore Homestead on the north end of town off of Woodlawn Street. But we also have on the west side of town the Country Junction and Antique Mall campus out there facility. We have a large car show, Scott Baum and Baum Chevrolet and their large car show over the weekend. We talk about it. It's just a large craft and food festival, and it brings tens of thousands of people to our small community for the weekend. It's a great thing for the community in the fact that a lot of our civic organizations, our youth organizations, sports groups, the school, different school organizations are able to do the majority of their annual fundraising in just a 2-day weekend festival. And so it's a great time. Oftentimes weather permitting, the festival will take place regardless, but, our attendance to that festival can run anywhere between 50 to 100,000 visitors to our small town over the course of 2 days. And so that's a big thing for our police department, to prepare for that. Our streets and things are not designed for that. And so looking forward to that. We welcome everybody to come. Be patient. There's plenty of parking, but the traffic will move slow through Clinton for a couple days. We're very fortunate to have the assistance of not only our police department, that's kind of all hands on deck, but that of the assistance of the Sheriff's Department. The Illinois State Police assists us with some traffic control situations, and then the Piatt County Emergency Management Agency supplies their vehicle for our command post and things like that. So fortunately, I was able to take over kind of a well-oiled machine. We kind of have a checklist to go off of to prepare for it, but something we always look forward to. It's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of fun. It's great to have that many visitors, and then we're also always glad when it's over with. So, but no, we certainly welcome everybody to Clinton this weekend for our Apple and Pork Festival.
Very cool. And final thoughts. What are next steps for you?
I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. It's been a great career, and I look forward to more. But, I'm looking at an impending retirement. I became eligible actually earlier this year, and not ready to be done yet. I'm looking at, in the next 12 to 18 months, I'm looking at impending retirement, and doing so, I think a big part of leadership is preparing the next generation or the next phase of leadership, and so we put a tremendous focus on that in the last couple of years of getting our staff in a position for my departure and preparing that next phase of leadership. And I think we've done a good job at that. And so, not only is it time for me to move on, maybe to a different challenge, but also it's time to hand it over and give them the opportunity that they've worked so hard for as well. So, that's what we're looking for in the future. Again, very passionate about law enforcement, very passionate about serving my home community. So we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah, congratulations on your almost retirement.
Yeah. So I'm far from retiring.
Yeah.
It's just moving on from one.
Yes,
it's been a
of
great
course.
career. I've loved to serve the city of Clinton and the Clinton Police Department. But it's that time, and so looking to move on to something different as we move forward. So.
Very cool. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us here at WCIA. It was so nice to get to know you, and we hope you'll come back.
Thank you so much for having me. I look very much forward to coming back and talking more. So.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you. And thanks for joining us here on Chat with the Chief. We're going to be visiting with somebody new next week.